Hi, Johnny.
Hello,
Hi, Maria. Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. So, what time is it in Israel now? It's like,
10 hours more.
oh, okay. So that's why Johnny's not participating.
5:30 in the
5:30
morning.
in the morning. He's not so dedicated.
No. Oh, Mr. Adranich,
Hello.
how are you? Hey, you're still
Hi,
not
Al.
shaving.
Shavuos coming up. I'll have to shave then. I'll have to get close to my shaver. Shavuos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Next week can be all pretty.
Well, that's your opinion.
Hey, Mari, Harold, did you hear
Yeah.
about this guy, this lady, it's in the news all the time, Angela, you heard about her?
Yeah.
You heard all about her? She's coming out with a new movie.
What is it?
Remember the 80s and 90s, she was plastered all over the billboards?
Oh, yeah, Angeline.
Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angeline. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
The
know where she
blonde.
came? You know where she came from?
No.
Her parents were Holocaust survivors. She was born in Bnei Brak. She was raised as a Bnei Brak girl. See,
No
honestly,
way.
I couldn't believe it. I was reading it. She raised in Bnei Brak as a Hasidic girl. She came, can you imagine? She did.
She got a nice body. Oh,
She remade herself over.
Is she still alive?
Yeah, 71 years old. They're making a movie out of her now. I saw the.
Oh, she's
the
still
newspaper.
alive. Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, she's making a movie about her. Read all about it. She came.
Oh,
Her parents.
hilarious.
Her
Oh,
parents
yeah,
were
look
very
here. Her name is Ronya
Goldberg.
Tamar Goldberg.
Goldberg. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I was
I'm
gonna tell
shocked.
you. Yeah, I'm shocked.
I'm
It was fun.
shocked.
Let me tell you, I saw it Friday. Oh, it's funny. Yeah, go Chassid
Oh,
from Bnei
my
Brak.
God.
From Bnei Brak. I thought you'd be funny. I thought you'd laugh at that. Can you imagine that?
That's hilarious.
It's funny. She remade, and she was brought up to Fairfax. She went to Fairfax High School, but she denied it. But that's somebody did research. She was brought up as a Fairfax High School as a refugee. Came over from.
That's a big surprise.
Yeah, I'm sure she had so many implants, you know.
Oh,
so-
my God.
But she made it for herself. She promoted herself
Yeah.
on all the billboards. Nobody, and she got movie contracts, and she got singing contracts. I don't know if talent she has, but she promoted herself. That's
She must speak Yiddish
maybe, yeah,
or Hebrew. Yeah.
She was brought up in Bnei Brak. Maybe.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Little Angelina.
Okay, we're on Pei 85. We're dealing with the issue whether a female Kohen has a lav to marry like a halala or a giroira or a ger, just like a Kohen. And we said that it's different by them. Tried to bring a proof that it was not a lav hashava b'kol. Vare tuma de lav shein shava b'kol. The law that a Kohen cannot be metame himself, that's not a law that applies to everybody. It's only for Kohanim. The time of the because Rachmana b'nei Aaron v'loy b'nei Aaron. It's only because the pasuk says b'nei Aaron, and we are medayik v'lo b'nos Aaron, that female Kohanim are not prohibited from afflicting themselves with tumah. And if it wasn't for that, halavachi havamina nashim chayavos, that nashim would be chayv, my time, lav mishum dravira marav. Isn't it because of the statement of Rav that an ish and isha are shava with all the oinshim and the yisurim? So versus lo, the gamrina milo yikachu. There's a pasuk lo yikachu that maybe the bnei sarim would be chayiv to be mezar mituma, but it's only because lo yikachu that
Voy a preguntar si Dani todavía está en ese negocio.
Una
Está en
applies
ese
to women.
negocio, Dani.
Mario, you need to put yourself on mute. Ike di Amri, Kicha Itzrachle. Sagdach with Ligma Mituma. That we're going to learn from Tuma. That maybe it's only the Bnei Aaron, not the females. Maybe that's the same din by who they're allowed to marry. That we don't. Rav Papa Ravuna Braid Rav Yeshua Iklim Hinatsu.
Is this mother here?
Rav Papa and Ravuna went to Hinatsu, which is the Asrei Ravidi Baravi, the neighborhood of Ravidi. Boy Minai, Uzark shares to Nasi Psunalo. Are female Kohanim, are they prohibited from marrying Chalolim or Gerim? Amr Lahu, Rav Papa Tanisua, Asar Yuchsin Alumi Bava. 10 stages of Yichus came up from Bava. Kohanim Levim Yisraelim, Chalolim, Gerim, Charurim, which refers to Evet Shechrur, Mamzerim, Nesinim, Shetuki, Vasufi. Kohanim Levim Yisraelim, Mutarm Lavo Zebazeh. They can all marry each other. Levim Yisraelim, Chalolim, Gerim, Charurim, Mutarm Lavo Zebazeh. They all can marry each other. Geri, Charuri, Mamzer, Nesini, Shtuki, Vasufi. Mutarm Lavo Zebazeh. V'ilu Kohanos l'chalal oktani. It doesn't mention that female Kohanim can marry Chalalim. It only lists those that can marry each group. Kohen, given the ilu boy lemins of Chalal asirale. A Kohen cannot marry Chalal, oktani. So it doesn't mention the negatives. Also, Kamei Ravidi Barav and Amar Lo Dardi Ki Hachi Amar Ravid Amarav Yuzru Kshes Nasin Absulim. There's no prohibition for females to marry whoever they want. They can marry they can marry Chalalim as well. One second, I just need to get a tissue and a glass of water. 1 second.
And it's done.
Oh, man.
Shnios medivrei soifrim. Boy minei bnei viri mirav shesha. Shnia labal, below shnia liyovim. The husband was a shnia to the wife, but the yovim was not related. Yesh l'ksubim miyovim olo. Is there a ksuba that the yovim has to come up with? Kivin doma mar ksubos on nichse bala rishon. Normally, the ksuba, when the husband dies and the guy's miyabim her, the assets come from the assets of the first husband. Less slave, he didn't have assets. So, kivadam mark subas on the bali rishon, less slave, less law. Maybe since he was a shnia to her, and we learned yesterday that there's no ksuba paid if the husband was a shnia, So based on that, the Yavim wouldn't have to pay either. O Dilma, Kivan de Ilu Leslie Marishon Takin Le'Rabbanan Misheni, since the law is, if there was no financial assets for the first husband, the Yavim has to come up with the assets, maybe Islam. Maybe she does get a ksuba. Amalu Rav Sheshes to Nisua. Ksubos al nichse bala rishon. The ksuba comes from the first husband. Here it is befeirush. And if the husband's relationship with his wife was a shniya, then the Yavim doesn't have to pay either. Michlal de Ika de Islam Yavim? Does that imply that a Yavim will sometimes come up with the ksuba? Gemara says, yeah. Normally, ksubas al nichse bala rishon. Normally, the ksuba is paid from the assets of the first husband. V'iles lamarishon. If there are no assets, takinu le misheni. Chachamim made a takana that the Yavim pays for it. But if the relationship between the first husband and the wife was a shniya, the Yavim doesn't have to pay anything. Almana l'koin gadol, grusha v'chlutz l'koin hedya. Yesh lehen mezoinos or ein lehen mezoinos? Does the husband have to provide mezoinos? Hechidomi, ile mediyos v'tu say, if they're living together, we don't want mezoinos to be paid because we want the guy to divorce her. They're living in sin. So, mezonos isla, there would be no mezonos. The case is he's not there, he's in China. And she's borrowing money from her neighbors, v'achla. And then the question is, when the husband comes home, does he have to pay the guy who loaned her money? Do we say mezoini tonight ksuba ninu? Paying mezoina is part of the condition of a ksuba. Midi isla ksuba. Since we learned yesterday that when a kohen gadol marries an almana, there is a ksuba, and since there's a ksuba, isla mezoini. So then she would get mezoinos. Oy dilma, perhaps ksuba de la mishkalu mefik. Ksuba is meant to be paid and gone, like he dies, he divorces her. So in those cases, isla. But if she's going to get mezoinas from this ksuba, dilma tisakiv gabe, and that's going to cause her to hang around and not separate from him, even though they're living in sin, lesla. Maybe we say she doesn't get mezoin, like a knas. Or merlei lesla. In a chanami, we knas her. Aiva tanya yeshla. So ki tanya ilachar misa. Now it depends. If he dies, so he's not around anymore. So she gets mezonos from the assets from the yorshim. Is the Omer, other people say merlei tanya yeshla. One brisa says she gets mezonos. Why would we give her mezonos? That would incentivize her to stick around, and we want haba amod v'hoitze koi. We want him to divorce her. El-hatanya yeshla. The brisa says yeshla. Ki tanya ilachar misa. Again, it's after his death. After his death is not a problem anymore. Ton rabon. Alman l'koin gadol grusha v'chlutz l'koin hedya. Yeshla ksuba. And she gets payroys and mezoinos and blois, her clothing. However, v'hi psula, she becomes a chalala, uvlada pasul, and her children are chalalim, because it's a lav. Almana l'kohen gadol, grusha to a kohen, ve'koifnos aloitzi. Bezdin forces them to get divorced. Shnios medivrei soifrim. If the relationship between the husband and wife is shnios, which are midrabanan, then ein lo ksuba. Then there is no ksuba. Lo peiros, lo mezonos, lo blos. However, v'hi kshera. she does not become a halal. There's no psula kahuna. Uvlada kosher. The koifen oisor lahoitzi because it's against the chachamim's will. Amrav Shem ben Elazar ben Nema Amru al model kohen gadol yesh la ksuba mibnei shehu pasol v'hi psula. He's pasol through this marriage. He can't do the avodah until he divorces her, and to accept not to bring her back. And she's pasol because she became a halala with the bia. The chomakam shehu pasol v'hi psula kansu also ksuba. The chachamim made a knas that he has to pay the ksuba. Because since there's a psul, we don't want the nesuin to continue. And for that reason, we don't make her lose her ksuba.
Why don't we say that? Why should we have the kedushin bichal? If all these things are usher, why do we
Because
allow it to be chal?
only an avera with kores there's no chal.
Like Eishes Ish, you mean?
An avera that's only lav, the kiddushin is chal.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Kloimar, loy kansua mishar kol anoshim. V'ayde kansua rabon l'shniya ksuba. There the chachamim did make a knas. If she married a shniya, there she loses her ksuba. Kadesh lo yisakiv etzlahu, because we don't want her to stick around. And since there's not going to be any ksuba, so she'll go out quickly. Now, and there's no incentive for them to get the divorce. We want her to speed up getting out of that marriage because she doesn't get anything from it. Rabbi Yoimer, halalu almanu l'kohen gadol grushel kohen is dvar Torah. The divrei Torah ain't tzrichin chizuk. You don't have to come up with a takana to make it mechazik. People stay away from asurei d'oraisa, so we don't need a special takana. But halal divrei soifrim. But shnius midrabanan are rabbinic laws. The divrei soifrim tzrichin chizuk. There you need a knas. Davar acher zeh hu margila. When they're both pasul, he wants her to stay married to her. But the zoo, when they're both kosher, he margilaso. She wants to stay in the marriage. Therefore, they knas her. Davrache. Man ktani law. It's Rabbi Shimon Elazar law. It's Rabbi Shimon Elazar. Ma tam kamar. And it's asking for the reason. Ma tam amru shekasher u'pasul v'hipsula. Why is it that when the husband is pasul and she's pasul, kansos ksuba? The ksuba, he has to pay it. Margila. He wants to stay in the marriage. Umatam hu kosher v'ikshar kansos margila. So she wants to stay in the marriage. Ikid yami rav Rebbe Ktani law that chlutza kakashile. You had an issue with chlutza. But chlutza is also drabon and not Torah. And still isla ksuba, she gets a ksuba. So you see, it's not true that whenever there's rabbinic law, the chacham make a chizuk l'divrayim. However, hadar amar, even the pasula midrabanon, she's nifsal kuhuna midrabanon. So again, who margila? He doesn't care, so he wants to stay married. But the zoo, by shnia, which do not passel her, she wants to stay married. So therefore, we have to disincentivize her by not paying her the ksuba. Ma'ike ben Rabbi Rav Shimon Elazar. Amrav Chizda, mamzeres for nesin Yisrael lekibinayer. Madam deraisa, mamzeres is also deraisa. So the svara that it's deraisa versus drabanan, that would work. Manda amr neshu hu margila, hahi margila lei. The mamzeres is possible to start with. She wants to marry a regular Yisrael, so they could have children who can then, right, be, marry a shivcha, and then be meshachrer the child, and that's the way to kasher the mamzeres. U'ledas Rabbi Eliezer, harei zevet umamzer. He doesn't have that because he holds that you can't be machshir the vlad. So halo margala levelomidi. So she doesn't want to stay in the marriage at all. So there's no reason to knas her in that case. Rav Yosef, machzer grusha mishnissas ikibinayu. That if you divorce your wife and she marries somebody else, you're not allowed to take her back. Now, if you did, manda amar daraisa nami daraisa. Manda neshri margila, ahi margila. She wants to stay in the marriage because she and her children are not nifsal through those nesuin. But Rabbi Kiva Dama Yesh Mamzer Mechave Lavin, which is this is one of those cases. So Halo Magila Lev Lamidi, she doesn't want to stay in the marriage. So why are we not motivating her? Hello, Amrav Papa, Bu'ula Koin Godel Ikibinayu. Someone who's not a Basula, which is also an assay. Manda Amar Doraisa, Anami Doraisa. Umanda Amar Neshu Margila, Hahi Margila Lay. It's only an Isra say. So the children are not nifsal through, because they don't become chalolim. So she's interested in staying in the marriage. However, Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov Damar sheyesh halal gam mechayve asay. He holds that you can make a halal if you violate an asay. Halo marglo lev midi. So she has no interest in staying in the marriage. Somebody who is taking his wife to drink the sota waters, but he still lives with her. So that's over dvar Torah. Manda madaraisa, nami daraisa. Manda amar mimneshi hu margila, hahi margila. In this case, she's not nifsal through that, so she otherwise would stay in the marriage. We have to disincentivize her by not giving her the ksuba. However, Rav Masya ben Charash, the Omar, afilu halach ba'ila lashkoisa, ubale baderech asa zoyna. The husband makes her halachic zona, so it passes her lekuhuna. Halomargila lev lamidi, so she doesn't have an interest in staying in the marriage. El amamar of ashi besota vada ikibinayu. It means if his wife was mezaneh, so he can't live with her. But there's no mamzerus with the children, so she doesn't mind staying in the marriage. So we have to, even though it's also minat Torah, so we have to disincentivize her by knasing her that she doesn't get a ksuba. Mishnah. Bas Yisrael Morasas Bas Yisrael, who only gets kiddushin, not marriage yet. So she doesn't need truma yet. Meuberes mikoyin. Let's say a pregnant woman, wife of a kohen, and he dies. So she doesn't need truma until she gives birth. Shomeres Yovim Lakoin, a lady in waiting, and one of the brothers is a kohen. V'chein bas kohen liYisrael, or a bas kohen who received kiddushin, or is pregnant, or is waiting to be miyabim by Yisrael. In all these cases, lo yisoichal b'truma. Now, bas Yisrael moresas leLevi. A Bas Yisrael who's been given kiddushin by a Levi, Muberes mi Levi, is pregnant from a Levi. Shemeres Yavim leLevi. V'chein Bas Levi Yisrael lo toichal b'maiser. Same thing. She cannot eat meiser in these limbo statuses. Bas Levi muresus lekoyin, Muberes mi koyin. Shemeres Yavim lekoyin. V'chein Bas koyin leLevi lo toichal lo b'truma v'lo b'maiser. The Bas Levi has to stop eating truma. She doesn't start eating truma. And she doesn't eat meiser either. So we said that a Bas Yisrael who's Muresus leLevi doesn't eat meiser yet. So Utehei Zara, and why is she any worse than a complete regular Yisrael? And Zara milachal b'meiser? A non-Levi can always eat meiser. There's no kedusha there. It's just the assets of the Levi. What's the difference if she's a Levi or not a Levi? Amar Rav Nachman Shmuel Hamani Rab Meir he. The Amar Meiser Rishon Asur Lazar. Rab Meir is a Das Yachid who holds that Meiser Rishon cannot be eaten by regular Israelim. And we'll see that sheet tomorrow. Okay.